St. John's Faith Formation. I'm here with Father Neil again, so thanks for spending some time with me again. I thought maybe it would be nice if you could maybe talk to us a little bit about Holy Week. Is it different from the rest of Lent? Or?
It's different if we choose that it would be different. So we have this opportunity over the next few days to really enter into the suffering, death, and resurrection of our Lord. And you don't know you're on top of a hill unless you go down into a valley, right? If it's all just hills, then you have no idea. You don't see the deep valleys. And so we have to enter in, it's my opinion, we have to enter into the death and suffering of our Lord. We have to actually make it a part and feel it viscerally. Feel how Jesus died for us and suffered, and every lash of the whip that hit him on the back. One of the things that I love to watch, and I know you guys watch it during Faith Formation normally, is the Passion of the Christ, because it's so visceral and really probably not even a tenth of what it was really like. It was probably a lot worse than that. But it just brings us into this realness of what our Lord had, because Jesus can kind of sometimes become a fairy tale. And, you know, a story we hear about, but do we really believe that he was real? You know, did he really suffer for me? And so the readings for the masses, they really celebrate this entire last few moments of Jesus. And so Thursday is the first big day. It's Holy Thursday night. And this is where Jesus was with his apostles celebrating the Last Supper, celebrating the true Passover meal with them. And foreshadowing and telling them what you're going to be eating soon is not just bread, but my flesh. And they were so confused by this and dumbfounded, and just as much as we are when we look at the host and say, how could this be Jesus' flesh? We're just as dumbfounded and say, it doesn't look like it at all. It takes a lot of faith. It took just as much faith for them to believe him in that moment. And then they went out, and he went into his suffering, and they watched what he did. And can you imagine being Jesus' followers, following this man for a long time, and for years, doing these miracles, and he's teaching and all of this stuff. And all of a sudden now, over the course of these few days, he dies. He lets himself be scourged and tortured, and then he lets himself die. I think your faith would be pretty thin. I think you would go, wait, what did we just go through with Jesus this whole time, and now he's dead? And they kind of all went back to their lives after that. They kind of all walked away, and they didn't know what to do. And so Jesus had to, when he came back, when he rose from the dead, he had to convince them, because constantly they didn't have the eyes to see the Easter resurrection. And so when they would come to Thomas, he would have to say something, say a word. On the road to Emmaus, he had to say words that, we recognized him in the breaking of the bread. We knew that moment. We were there in that moment. It's the exact same thing for us in our day, that we can't recognize the resurrection until we actually encounter our Lord.
So Holy Thursday is also the anniversary of the institution of the Eucharist.
It is.
And the priesthood.
Yep.
So I noticed on the church calendar for the daily readings, it's not colored in purple on Thursday. Can you tell us why that is?
Yeah, because Holy Thursday is really a day of celebration. We're celebrating what the Lord has instituted in the Eucharist and in the Holy Priesthood, 2 sacraments that were made in that very day. It's a day of celebrating these last moments with our Lord. I mean, they were in this big meal, and they were having, you can imagine this big banquet celebration with the apostles, and they were having a great time. In fact, when you go to Jerusalem, they have a room where they think that this was the area where the upper room was. It's been destroyed many times, and so they don't have the room itself, but they have an idea of where it was. And there are stairs that go down the hill, down to what they call the Kidron Valley, and then you go through the valley a little bit over to the side where the Mount of Olives is, where Jesus went to suffer. And so the story is that, he left with his apostles from the Last Supper, walking down these stairs. And when you're there, this church called St. Peter of Gallicantu, there's a big relief that's on the wall next to the stairs. And it shows Jesus and his apostles singing songs. And they're really excited. They probably had a little wine in them. So they were probably, having fun. And they were singing songs as they walked down these stairs. And you think, well, why would you be doing that if you knew you were going to your impending death? And not just a death, but this incredible torture that he went through. Every fiber of his being was tortured. He didn't hold anything back. He opened himself up completely and fully to the torture that he was put through. So it's a celebrating day. So it's a day that we celebrate these new sacraments, and we enter in with the apostles, but then we go into Good Friday, which is a very solemn day.
So you repose the Eucharist?
Right. We take Jesus in a procession, just as he was being taken in a procession on Holy Thursday night as they were going down the Kidron Valley over into the Mount of Olives. We take Jesus on a procession through the church, and we'll still do it, and we'll film it. There won't be very many people here, only 10, and we'll come around the church here, and then we'll put Jesus in an altar of repose to show that he's gone away into another place. He's gone. And then from Holy Thursday until the Easter Vigil, there really should be no adoration of the Lord in any way. So we even remove him from the altar of repose and put him in a place where no one can find him and put him in my office.
Wow.
But the whole idea is that we are supposed to feel this emptiness of the Lord has gone, and he's gone into the depths of hell to bring forth those people, those righteous like Abraham and Isaac and things.
What should we be doing Holy Saturday?
I think you should be praying. I think you should be meditating on the scriptures. I'll get you something to send out to everyone. It's the reading for the Office of Readings that day. And it's just a haunting tale of what has happened in the world with Jesus being gone in the tomb. And it just says, the world waits. This silence, this deafening silence that overcomes the entire world. So it's a really cool thing.
Great.
Certainly Good Friday is a day of no meat, of fasting, of abstinence, so trying to create some bodily suffering for us, because some people don't suffer very much, and so it's good for people to take on penance and things to suffer and feel it, so that we can enter in and unite ourselves. They talk a lot about solidarity and social justice, that you should have some sort of solidarity with the people who are suffering in the world. And the way it was translated when I was a kid is, there's starving kids in Africa. Eat your food, right? And I probably shouldn't have cleaned my plate as many times as I did. But there was this idea of solidarity, and we need to have solidarity with the reality of what Christ went through. I think that's more important than anything.
I read the history of the church in the early times. This week of Holy Week, some people only have 3 meals the whole week. Mm-hmm. And here we're just whittling it down to one day. Yeah. So really entering into...
It's very relaxed for us. And even a day of fasting is, 1 full meal and 2 snacks that don't equal a meal. Well, that's actually a lot of food. So we have it pretty easy. And that's like the low bar. But people can always do more than what is required of them. I always encourage people to do more.
So we should encourage, maybe there's something you can do just a little bit more this week to enter into that maturity of Christ. Mm-hmm. Final question, why are statues covered?
Well, it's a tradition in the church. I don't know the origin of the tradition. It goes back quite a ways. It's supposed to help us to enter more deeply into this kind of deprivation, that we're being deprived of Jesus for a period of time in his suffering, so that when we come out on the other side, it helps us to get down in that valley even a little bit further. So then when we are able to come out the other side on the Resurrection Sunday and on Easter, all of the glory of the church is revealed again. We have all the statues uncovered and polished. We have the big candles out. I've got these awesome candles that I ordered for Easter this year. The altar's going to look unbelievable. And we've got Easter lilies, and we're going to have tons of flowers in here. We're trying to build the suspense with that. So it's this kind of deprivation. Holy images are usually supposed to bring us deeper into the mystery of Christ. So when we look upon the Blessed Mother, we can see this tender love that our Lord also has for us. And so the tender love of the Blessed Virgin Mary is the love of the Father that's just expressed through her. This covering them kind of helps us to be deprived of that for a little bit of time. It's not for very long. We wouldn't do it for a long period of time. But it's part of the drama.
Makes us appreciate Easter Sunday that much more. Mm-hmm. Hallelujah. Hallelujah's back.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll be back on Easter Sunday, right? Yeah.
Right. Praise God. Well, thank you, Father, for your time, and we look forward to entering more deeply into Easter Sunday. So praise God. Right.